sexy. It's the reason we know it.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think what made the meat market sexy was that you had a lot of cheap space that opened up, you had a rezoning, you had no residential, and you had a lot of people opening restaurants that were cool because the rent was cheap, and they did a restaurant right next to Hanging Meat, and that made it cool. And then somebody opened a cool hotel next to a cool restaurant, next to a manufacturer, a meat manufacturer with Hanging Meat. That's what made it cool, because it was cheap space.
So what you're saying is we need hanging meat, is what you're saying.
Right.
That's what it is.
I'm not going that way. I'm not going there at all.
Put some beef away. But I think it's a good point that she makes. I mean, the reality is we have cheap space now. I mean, just what Adam said, which is now is where you think the rents have bottomed. This is an opportunity.
Well, do you think that these hotels are going to help make us cooler? I don't
know. I've never stayed in the hotels, obviously. I live here in Manhattan. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think that's their intention. I think their intention is to take advantage of Times Square, which potentially could be some of our intention. So I think that's something we can potentially share with them. I think, look, the hotels, they're finding cheap space, right? Buildings, the zoning allows them to convert. They convert, and they basically can find a room rate that's going to be attractive to people coming into the city who want to be in that part of town. I mean, they're just running a business like the same way we're running a business. By the way, potentially think about how hotels change in this city. If you want to, if you're a hotel kind of historian, it's Schrager figured out that basically don't let the people leave the hotel, right? It's get them in here and make this the coolest place they could possibly go. So conceptually, why can't that happen in the Garment Center? It certainly could. So I think that potential is still out there. I don't think that story has been told or is dead in any way.
Can we turn the question around?
Yes, anytime.
Why do you think the Garment Center is not cool?
Well, I'll ask. I know we have the people from the bid here, the fashion bid. Barbara, why aren't we cool?
Well, I think one of the, and then I have a question actually for the panel.
Well, maybe it's time to sort of open it up to you guys.
Go over to the mic.
It's probably a good idea.
Many of us are on community on the fashion bid, by the way, and Barbara is are you president or executive director? President. She's president, and she's gone through this. Why aren't we cool?
I think we're not cool for a number of reasons. I think we're not cool. I'll raise my voice because the microphone is not working.
Give her your mic.
Barbara wanted to use. Why don't you use this one?
That's okay.
It's
working now.
It's working.
Thank you. I think there are a number of reasons. One of the things that's most disturbing to the fashion district, and it's something that Eric alluded to, is that so many designers moved out of the district and moved into places like Chelsea and Soho and the meatpacking district and opening these fabulous boutiques, which to my mind should exist in the fashion district, because there are many, many people, literally tens of thousands of people a year that come to the fashion district because they want to experience the fashion district. But fashion is not in the fashion district. Fashion is on Smith Street and Court Street and the Lower East Side and the meatpacking district.
And on Bryant Park, over there on Bryant Park.
And Bryant Park. So, or Lincoln Center.
Right.
But the point is the ground floor retail is something that we really struggle with at the bid. It's very, very unappealing. Those floor plates, I'm talking about the side streets now because in the Avenue buildings there are many uses that you could put in there. But the side streets, first of all, do not have a contiguous block face. So as you're walking down the side street, you have loading docks. Every couple of stores, you go by a shop, black space. Shop, black space. So from a pedestrian point of view, it's just not a pleasurable experience. The other thing is that the ground floor retail this neighborhood has always been a working neighborhood. There's no residential here. There's some residential now. There are about 3 or 4 buildings that have been built recently, and there are the hotel uses, but those hotel users are not necessarily, I think, the audience that we're talking about trying to get. But the ground floor retail has always serviced the workers in the buildings, whatever they were, whether it's the showrooms or office workers or factory workers. So it tends to be delis, the button guy and the fabric guy and the zipper guy, which continues to diminish and has been diminishing now for over 40 years, because as the industry shrinks, those uses shrink. So we have a 14% vacancy on our ground floor retail right now, and we are trying, what we would love to have is destination dining. The meatpacking district, Soho, Chelsea, they all have destination dining. The neighborhood closes at night. It's not a 24/7 neighborhood. If you walk through that neighborhood on your way home tonight, you will see it's shuttered. It's closed on the weekend, although we have some of the highest pedestrian counts in the city of New York
Yes.
on the weekends.
Yes.
So it's this, irony that you've got this Midtown Manhattan location, you have a ground floor retail that is really geared toward the users upstairs, but not to anybody else. And it's something that we're really trying to figure out right
Has the
now.
mall helped you, the Broadway Mall? I know it's very controversial where they've
The
closed
Broadway Mall has been terrific for visitors to New York because it closes the gap between 34th Street and 42nd Street for pedestrians. And it's also been a terrific public amenity for the workers because in the summer you'll see every single one of those chairs taken. But this is a question that I have for the panel.
Yes.
Since I'm up here. There's something, we've all been talking to each other.
Is this to the complete panel or any specific person? Go
I
ahead.
don't know. I mean, really, for the design community, I think. We've been talking to each other for 2 years, I think earnestly, all the stakeholders trying to find a solution to this problem, the problem of zoning, and the problem of the diminishing of production.
Right.
If you believe, and I believe, that there are 3 viable, stable fashion businesses that are still in New York that are sustainable. One is the high-end designers, Oscar, Bill, Yolene, Nanette, folks like that produce locally. They're here, they've made a commitment to be here. I totally believe they're gonna stay here and you'll always have that use. You have young, emerging designers that are coming to New York City. I 100% believe that those designers will always come to this city because of the diversity and the excitement and the stimulation that you get in New York City that you can get in very few other places, and because when you're an emerging designer, you can make your clothes here. You can get a pattern maker and go get the buttons and get the fabric
Right.
and go find someone to make them. I think that's a sustainable business. And we know that there's another business, which is something sells out at retail and you need it quickly and you've got to get it made locally, you can't send it overseas. Those are 3 viable businesses that exist in New York. The production diminishes every single year for 60 years. At some point, the need, the market, is going to stabilize the production because these guys can't exist without these guys. When is that going to happen? I don't think this is a real estate issue. I think the clustering is very important for the industry. I think they will always cluster. I do not buy that if you put this all in one building, it will work because we're entrepreneurs. You're entrepreneurs. And the first thing an entrepreneur is going to say is, I don't want to be in that building. It's a mall. I'm going over there. So
What is your question? I mean,
this is my question. If these are 3 viable businesses in New York, design businesses, creative businesses, and we know those businesses must have production to be viable, when does the production meet the need? What is that number? We have 7,000 jobs right now in production. Is it 5? Is it 3? Is
you're
it 7?
asking us to.
Barbara,
I think it's
I'll answer that
market-driven.
question. It's in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
We bottomed out. It happened. It's over.
Okay, so we're good now. So
We're good. No, we're good, but you left out the 4th. And thank God it was 3 and not 1. But you left out the 4th, which is private label, meaning we can grow the pie right now. And that's really where we are. It's time to grow the pie.
Okay, but
we
I-
have passed bottom out.
But isn't it a market issue, not a real estate issue? Because if you have enough stuff that needs to be made here, you will have viable, sustainable factories.
It's
Right.
changing. Right
Anybody
now.
else want to answer that question? I
Well,
mean,
okay. I just want to point out that what's interesting in the Garment Center is that, I may not answer this question, but that the Garment Center factories are actually fairly small. They're on the average, I think, of about 4,000 square feet. There are actually factories out in Brooklyn, Queens that are average about 14,000 square feet. So a lot of the more mass production is outside the Garment Center, which makes me, just say again, as it's been said before, what the Garment Center does really well is high-end tailored clothes, beaded clothes, specialty clothes. You've got the high-end designers here. And it seems that that's where the concentration should be, the emerging designers, the high-end designers, and somehow that has to be marketed, pushed. The private labels are a great idea. But these are the kinds of ideas, these are the kinds of branding, marketing that needs to start to occur so that you have that number 4, that you grow the labels, that you grow the garment center, and you grow the brand here.
I believe, I really don't quite agree with you. I
Okay.
think that the growth is going to be in the middle market. I think that that's really where growth is. I think when the big stores start to understand that, we will never be the low-end market, but we can be a viable middle, and I think that will be where we will end up being. I don't think we're going to be the couture of fashion. I think there'll always be Milan, there'll always be Paris, there'll be all those places, but we have to develop, I think we have to develop a middle market. I'm sorry.
If I may
Yeah.
stand,
Yeah.
just say something, respond to what Madeline said. The people that we talk to, manufacturers, what they say is related to, Brooklyn. They don't want to go to Brooklyn. They want to be able to stay right here, okay? in
Everybody else
Midtown
wants to go to
Manhattan,
Brooklyn.
be
I don't
able
know why they don't.
To go across the street and see what their garment looks like. They don't want to get on a train or take a car to Brooklyn, all right? That might work someplace else, and I've thought about that. Did that make a lot of sense? Because we represented some large factories, okay, in Brooklyn. But it just isn't working, okay? That's not what they want to do. They want to be here, and the small factories is what has made this industry work. for these many
I'm not
years.
giving an opinion about that. I agree with you. I believe that many of the factories who are outside of Manhattan want to get back inside Manhattan.
That's true.
But then there's the issue of space, cost, and all
Well,
those other
that's
practical
this
issues.
new model we're trying to think about. There are questions out there. Go ahead.
Hi, how
Just
are you?
say who you are, okay?
Sure, Jeffrey Zarofsky. I'm an entrepreneur, member of CB5 as well. Question for EDC, which is a very pointed one, and I hope you don't take offense. Does EDC have a let me preface the question. EDC has made it a priority in the rest of the city to develop certain types of industries. Biomedical on the east side and up at Columbia. Hunts Point is under discussion. There are a bunch of other ideas that are creative and wonderful and developing business all over the city. The question is this a priority? Is having a garment industry, manufacturing, mixed retail, designers being supported right here in the middle of Manhattan, is this a priority for EDC? Because I think that's where it starts. You can have, the market will follow if
Good question.
EDC makes it so in this case, and this is not so much that the hand of government needs to be too controlling, but moving the needle and saying, of this discussion, this debate about how many jobs, about this, that, and the other thing, if EDC sits and says, this is where we want to make manufacturing in New York City, a lot will happen. People will flock. People will come. The creative ideas as to how design retail will happen, how manufacturing will happen, how landlords will respond to that, it will move everything in line. So the question is this a priority for EDC? And if
Okay.
so, what is the point of view in EDC's, what is the priority?
Adam?
Well, I'll answer that by just saying, first, I'm the new kid on the block here. I'm not the new kid in terms of age, but certainly I've been working on this for about a year. There have been other teams at EDC within the city that have worked on this project. And the reason that we are now working on this project again is because it has been very complicated. It is not a city problem. It is a problem, as I said, for all of us. And when I say by a city problem, it's not a solution alone by the city. So yes, it is an area that we are looking very much at right now.
It's on your radar screen, right?
Pardon me?
It's on your radar
It's more
screen.
than on the radar. We have a whole team working
Good.
on